Why it's okay to outgrow certain relationships. Have you ever sat across from someone you've known for years and realized you no longer recognize the person they've become? Or maybe it's not them who's changed. Maybe it's you. Your heart, your values, your energy, they've all shifted. And yet, here you are, still trying to laugh at the same old jokes, nod through the same old complaints, and carry a weight that doesn't belong to you anymore. If that struck a chord, you're not alone. As we move through life, especially in this chapter after 60, we tend to reflect more deeply on how we spend our time and who we spend it with. And sometimes, what we discover can be both liberating and heartbreaking. Because the truth is, some relationships just don't fit anymore. Not because they were bad, not because anyone failed, but because we've grown and outgrown in ways we never expected. Today, I want to talk to you about something we don't hear enough of, that it's okay to outgrow certain relationships. In fact, it might be one of the healthiest signs that you're still evolving, still honoring who you've become. And that's something to be proud of, not ashamed. When we were younger, we were told to stick things out. To be loyal no matter what. To hold on, even when holding on hurt more than letting go. But there comes a point in life, and maybe you're feeling it now, where peace matters more than pleasing others. Where silence is better than small talk that drains you. Where depth is more precious than history. I remember a woman I met at a community center gathering. Her name was Margaret. She was in her 70s and had been in the same friend circle since her early 20s. They raised kids together, went on beach trips, shared family dinners. But as the years passed, something shifted. Margaret grew passionate about meditation, about nature walks, about learning new things. And her friends, they mostly just wanted to sit around and complain about their aches and the good old days. Every time she brought up something new she was excited about, the room would fall silent. Or worse, someone would scoff. "You're too old to start something new, Marg," they'd say. So she started making excuses not to go. She'd sit in her garden instead, read a book, or take herself out for coffee. And she told me, with tears in her eyes and a soft smile, for the first time in decades, I felt like myself again. That story stayed with me. Because sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is walk away from what's familiar, in order to walk toward who we are now. It's easy to feel guilty about it, though, isn't it? To wonder if we're being selfish, cold, or disloyal. But I want to flip that around. What if staying in a relationship that no longer nourishes you is the real act of disloyalty to yourself? Your time is precious. Your peace is sacred. And your presence is a gift. You don't owe it to anyone who makes you feel small, stuck, or unseen. There's this idea that once you hit a certain age, your circle is set. That it's too late to change. But let me ask you this, who made that rule? And why should we follow it? Just because someone's been in your life for decades doesn't mean they deserve a front row seat in this season. Some people were meant to walk with you for a few chapters, not the whole story. And that's okay. That's natural. That's human. Think about how many versions of yourself you've already been. The young, wide-eyed dreamer. The hard-working parent. The one who gave and gave, often forgetting about your own needs. Now, maybe you're discovering joy in stillness. Or craving conversations that go beyond the surface. Or finally learning to say no without feeling guilty. That's growth. That's evolution. And not everyone is going to grow with you. Some will try to hold you back, not out of malice, but out of comfort. Familiarity. Fear. But you're not here to live someone else's version of your life. You're here to live yours, fully, freely, and unapologetically. I want you to know something else, too. Letting go doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't mean slamming doors or sending angry texts. Sometimes, it's as quiet as pulling away gently. Showing up less. Protecting your time. And pouring more of your energy into the people and spaces that make you feel alive. Because when you do that, something magical happens. You make space. Space for new connections that align with who you are now. Space for stillness. For peace. for rediscovering what lights you up inside. And maybe, just maybe, for finding a kindred spirit in the most unexpected place, someone who sees you not for who you were, but for who you are becoming. And that's where the beauty lies, not in what you've had to leave behind, but in all that you're making room for now. Let's keep going deeper into this idea, because the more we open up to it, the more empowered we become to live fully, even if that means saying goodbye along the way. I think one of the hardest parts about outgrowing a relationship isn't just the distance that begins to grow between you and the other person. It's the questions that start swirling around in your own mind. Did I change too much? Was I too sensitive? Am I just being difficult? And here's the truth that not enough people will tell you: change isn't something to apologize for. It's something to honor. When you were younger, you may have bent yourself backwards to keep a friendship going, saying yes when you wanted to say no, laughing when things didn't feel funny anymore, pretending just to keep the peace. But if you're in your 60s, 70s, or even 80s now, you've earned the right to be real. You've earned the right to grow without guilt. That doesn't mean you love people less. It just means you're learning to love yourself more. I once spoke with a retired nurse named Elaine. She told me about her best friend from nursing school. They'd been inseparable in their 20s and 30s. But somewhere along the way, their values began to clash. Elaine became passionate about volunteering, mindfulness, and helping others in her community. Her friend, on the other hand, seemed to fall deeper into gossip, grudges, and the kind of negativity that clung to every conversation like smoke in a closed room. Elaine said something that stuck with me. Every time I left her house, I felt like I had to wring the heaviness out of my chest. That was her sign. Not every relationship that you outgrow is loud or toxic. Some are just tired. And that's not a failure. That's a signal. A sign that your soul is craving more light, more kindness, more depth, and less noise. But how do you begin to create space for that? How do you shift away from old connections without causing pain? Start by listening to your body. When you're around someone, do you feel energized or exhausted afterward? Do you feel seen or dismissed? Do you feel like you can be your full self, or are you shrinking just to fit the old version they remember? The body always knows. Your shoulders tensing, your stomach tightening, your smile feeling forced, these aren't little things. They're whispers. And the older we get, the more important it becomes to hear them clearly. Next, give yourself permission to step back without guilt. That might mean returning calls a little slower. Or choosing not to attend every gathering. It might mean saying something as simple and gentle as, "I'm in a different place right now, and I'm focusing on things that bring me peace." That's not a rejection. That's truth. That's grace. And let me be clear, setting boundaries doesn't mean you're being unkind. In fact, it's one of the kindest things you can do, for yourself and for others. Because when we force ourselves to show up where we no longer feel aligned, we bring half-hearted versions of ourselves into the room. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them either. I know, some people won't understand. Some might take it personally. But that's okay. Not everyone will see your growth as beautiful, especially if it shines a light on where they've stayed stuck. But you are not responsible for their reactions. You are responsible for your own peace. And here's something beautiful I've noticed. When you clear space from what no longer fits, life finds a way to fill that space with what does. Sometimes it's a new friend you meet at a book club. Or a neighbor you finally have time to talk to during morning walks. Sometimes it's a reconnection with a family member, a son, a niece, a cousin, where the bond feels deeper and freer than it ever did before. And sometimes it's not a person at all. It's you. Yes, sometimes the relationship we need to nurture most is the one with ourselves. With our inner calm. With our creative side. With our dreams that we thought were too late to chase. Because when you're no longer drained by trying to keep up old ties that no longer serve you, you finally have the space to breathe. To imagine. To grow in new directions. Maybe it's time to pick up that paintbrush again. Or start journaling. Or join a group of people who are just as curious and open-hearted as you are now. Because guess what? You are not too old to make new connections. You are not too old to be inspired. You are not too old to find your people, the ones who love you not for who you used to be, but for who you are becoming now. And the ones who don't get that, they were part of your journey, not your destination. So if your heart has been whispering that it's time to let go of a connection that feels more like a burden than a blessing, listen to it. You are allowed to choose ease over obligation. You are allowed to say, this doesn't feel right anymore. And you are allowed to walk forward, lighter, freer, and more in tune with the life you want to live now. Let's keep walking this path together, because there's one more layer to all this, and it just might change the way you look at every connection from here on out. You know, sometimes the biggest shift happens not when you let go of a relationship, but when you let go of the need for it to look like it used to. Because the truth is, not every relationship has to end completely to change for the better. Some just need a little more space, a little less expectation, a little more honesty about where you both stand. It's like walking into a room that's been filled with old furniture. Some pieces hold deep sentimental value. Others, well, they're just there out of habit. And when you finally clear out what no longer serves you, the light starts to pour in differently. You breathe easier. You see the corners you forgot existed. That's what happens inside you, too, when you stop forcing connections that no longer fit. But here's something important to remember: outgrowing a relationship doesn't mean you're ungrateful for what it once was. In fact, it often means you appreciated it so much, you stayed longer than you needed to. You gave it chances. You hoped it would shift. You held on with care. So let yourself grieve, if you need to. Grieve the laughter that used to come easily. The memories that once brought you close. The seasons of life you walked through together. Honor those things. Let them live in your heart without chaining you to the past. Because the goal here isn't bitterness, it's clarity. It's healing. It's choosing peace over patterns that no longer make sense. And if you're feeling lonely right now, if this talk about letting go is bringing up more emptiness than relief, I want you to hear this. Letting go doesn't mean ending up alone. It means making space for something better aligned. It means turning your face toward people who see you, not just remember you. People who don't need you to pretend. People who show up with kindness, curiosity, and warmth. And yes, those people exist, even now. Even at this age. They're in the woman sitting quietly at your book club who lights up when you talk about gardening. They're in the man who waves every morning on your neighborhood walk and finally strikes up a conversation. They're in the voices you hear on videos like this, people who, just like you, are rediscovering themselves after years of putting everyone else first. But in order to find them, you have to be brave enough to stop watering the gardens that no longer grow. You have to trust that the discomfort of letting go is temporary, and the joy of feeling aligned again is worth it. And sometimes, that alignment starts with one small act, reaching out to someone new. Saying yes to an invitation you'd normally decline. Or simply sitting quietly in your own company and realizing you like who you are now. You really do. Because what if the best relationship you've been waiting for is the one where you finally come home to yourself? That kind of peace, the peace of not pretending, not performing, not shrinking, that is the real gift of this season in life. You've spent so many years making space for others. Now it's your turn to make space for you. So if there's a name that came to mind while you were watching this, a person who drains you, belittles you, or simply no longer fits the rhythm of your life, take a deep breath. And ask yourself, what would it feel like to love them from a distance? To release the guilt and hold on to the gratitude, while moving toward the people and places that make you feel most alive? That's not selfish. That's wise. That's strong. And that's exactly what you deserve. This is your time now, to live with more ease, more honesty, and more heart. So if this message spoke to you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you outgrown a relationship that surprised you? What did you learn about yourself through the process? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content that speaks to your heart and your journey. Because you are not alone. You are not too late. And you are not too much. You are becoming more you than ever before. And that is something worth celebrating every single day. Here's to outgrowing what no longer fits. And growing into everything that finally does.